Yo, what up everybody? It's your boy the Kryptonian saying here, bringing you a review for One Piece chapter 609, and I'm gonna keep it 100% with you guys, man. I was not expecting Sanji to get a nosebleed so bad that you got Chopper saying, please, can somebody give us some of your blood? Sanji's about to die. And I'm going, what the fuck is Oda really going here? And I'm not gonna lie to you, when the chapter opens up and you see Sanji, he's got this goofy grin on his face, he's diving through the water, he's swimming after all the mermaids. You can tell this dude's in heaven, and Sanji's just like, I want to live here. And I'm like, oh my god, my dude is thinking about cream pieing every single mermaid here. It's just like, he's like, yo, Luffy, you went to Amazon Lily. I'm about to get me some Amazon lilies out of all these mermaids in this bitch. Like, we about to have a fish fry in this motherfucker. Like, Sanji having all kinds of fun, right? And what I found really interesting about that is when you look at Sanji, right? In a way, this is like a redemption arc for him. And you're gonna be like, what the hell are you talking about? A redemption arc? That makes absolutely no sense. So just bear with me for a second. The reason I feel like this is a redemption arc for Sanji is my dude, he was on an island with all these cross-dressers, right? Hairy legs, hairy chests, big bearded dudes. You know, Sanji doing all that, had to go through all this training, had to essentially walk around with blue balls for the entire time. And we know from just the journey down to Fishman Island, Sanji see a little jiggle action out of Nami, and I mean, I understand. You know, he see a little jiggle action, all of a sudden it's like nosebleed, man. You know, 'cause Nami's base, so I understand that. But like, at the same time, it's a redemption arc because after everything this dude's been through, he's coming face to face with this pervy nature. And he's losing the battle. No mistake. He is losing the battle. But at the same time, you know, Sanji, comedic relief and everything, in order for him to get a full grasp on it, he has to just dive all the way in. And I feel like he's trying to redeem himself as a character in that sense. And you're saying, well, how could that be redeeming as a character? Because he's embracing his inner perviness. That's why it's redeeming, man. And this is so fucking awesome, man. So awesome. When the ship comes, has all the princes on it, Sanji is just looking around. And he's like, oh shit, where am I going to hide? And you got this big old, well-blossom, bosom mermaid. And she says, Sanji, I'll hide you, just hide here. And Sanji just has a fountain of nosebleed, just spurt the fuck up, yo. Spurt the fuck up. And Luffy's like, oh my god, it's a geyser. Somebody help Sanji. Somebody get him blood. Chopper, somebody get him blood. And Luffy automatically gets out, and it's like, oh, that's no mistake, that's him. It's Luffy, and you're thinking, oh shit, I guess they're about to get captured, right? And we know at the end of the chapter that it turns out that these princes were actually looking for Luffy to give a message from Jinbe, right? And just speaking of Jinbe, I really want to know what the fuck happened, because after being, you know, kicked out of the Seven Warlords, right? You know, Jinbe wasn't allowed to stay on Fishman Island anymore, so I don't know what the whole thing is there. Obviously, Oda's going to explain it because it's going to be an integral plot thread in this arc more than likely. But what I found really interesting is the fact that Luffy is just like, yeah, you know, after Ace died, Jinbe was there for me. I couldn't have got off the island and escaped without him. And it's just like, oh shit, okay, well, that is true, because Akainu was trying to get all up inside of Luffy's guts with that that lava fruit and whatnot. And what I found really interesting is when you got all this shit going on and it looks like Luffy's about to throw down, Luffy's just like, hey, I got no time for you dudes. Gum Jet Pistol one-shots these dudes, right? The guys with the sea beasts that, you know, Luffy, Nami had to say, okay, we got to save Luffy from Luffy. Let's get the fuck out of here. So I like that. I like how when one of those sea beasts came out, Luffy just stuck his hand out. And it's just like the sea beast gave up. And we know he's using Haki, right? But Usopp's just like, what the fuck is he doing? Same with Chopper. And it's just like, okay, well, Luffy is using Haki. More than likely, teaches the Straw Hats. I'm going to go out on a limb and say Zoro probably got trained in Haki as well, because he was training with Mihawk. And it seems like, you know, Hockey's kind of like, key control, chocolate control, whatever, right? It's one of those things like you get a grasp on it, you be a really good fighter, but then it just takes you up to a whole nother level. And so now we see like Luffy's got a pretty good grasp on it, at least maybe just like the little ins and outs at each of them, because Rayleigh trained this dude, and the only thing that has me like maybe saying maybe Rayleigh trained him everything is, I mean, Luffy is your typical shonen main character. He's a fucking genius, but at the same time, he's an idiot. But when it comes to fighting, just like the different things that he does is so unorthodox, and it usually always works to where genius is on a different level. Too often, we look at somebody being a genius as, oh, they're book smart, right? So we would say like, oh, you're Nami, you're Robin, they're geniuses. Yeah, but there's something to be said about that person that is able to think outside the box and come to the same conclusion. And it might not make sense to you, but how they got there is still the same thing. That's a level of intellect in itself. So I'm wondering if maybe Rayleigh taught Luffy all of it, but at the same time, because just from that brief explanation that Rayleigh gave, it felt like hockey was a little complicated. So I'm thinking that maybe Rayleigh just kind of taught him like the bare basics. Like if you go to a basketball camp, right, and do shooting drills and everything, like they don't tell you, hey, worry about getting your release a lot quicker. Get that jump shot off really quick, that way nobody blocks you. They tell you first, hey, that's cool, you know how to make shots, but your elbow's popping out. How about you tuck that elbow in? Work on your shooting form. Keep the ball up high when you shoot. Like the basics. And then you build on it from there. And I'm wondering if maybe Rayleigh just did that shit and said, all right, young blood, you go figure the rest of this shit out. And it makes sense, because that's sometimes when you teach people, you can't give them the full scope of stuff. You have to give them just enough to get their brain working and have them kind of go out and look for the breadcrumbs themselves and then come up to their own conclusion of A plus B equals C, or 1 plus 3 equals 4. You have to give them room to grow themselves. So I think that that's pretty cool, because it's actually something, if you go back to Dragon Ball, it's something Master Roshi had told Son Goku, right? And what he told him was he said, look, I taught you everything that I know, okay? You know everything as far as being a fighter, but sometimes when it comes to life, life is the best teacher. And I think that's what Rayleigh did with Luffy. I think Rayleigh said, hey, you know the basics, you're pretty strong, but the rest of this shit, you're not going to get it until you go out and live life. Life can teach you more than I do. So I think that that's pretty cool, the fact that, Oda is potentially having Rayleigh take that type of approach with Luffy. And so I thought that was pretty cool. Now, the other thing, though, that I thought was pretty interesting, and this is probably going to be a bit of a longer review depending on how deep I kind of go into this, but I thought it was pretty interesting that, we're getting more of the class issue, we're getting more of the race issue between the humans and the fishmen and the mermaids. And what I thought was really interesting is how Oda just goes right forward. And it's just like when they're on the archipelago, you can tell like Oda was setting it up, but I didn't know it was getting this deep with it, man. You got the moment where Sanji needs blood, and they're saying, no, we're not going to give blood. And it goes back because the humans at the time, they didn't want to give blood, and it ended up costing one of the big heroes in a huge battle for the fishmen. And ever since then, it's just been this tension. Humans and fishmen, they don't get along with the mermaids. One of the things that got said was like, hey, if one of you give Sanji blood, you're going to be hunted down by the fishmen that hate humans. And when you listen to Cammy, and Cammy says like, hey, if I would have had his blood type, I would have gave him my blood. And it kind of, fuck it, I'm going to go there. It kind of makes me think about how things are now, right? Like, when you talk to a lot of these baby boomers, and like in the office I work in, I got a lot of them, and a lot of them say a lot of sideways racist shit that they don't realize is actually racist. And they look at me like, oh, well, that's just a millennial, he don't understand. No, I do understand. It's just that you're so entrenched in the time period you grew up in that you don't realize that the type of shit that you're saying is really offensive. It's really offensive. And it's just certain stereotypes, like, you know, like when one of them sees African American come through the door, like a particularly see an African American male, and he's clean cut and got the suit and everything on, they automatically assume, well, that's a guy that made it from the ghetto. That's the guy that made it from the bad areas. I hear shit all day, and it's one of those things just makes you say, did you really just say this shit? And it's because of shit like that. I understand where Oda's going with this, but the bright spot, okay, because I'm one of those people, I believe that people are inherently good. It's just that they get tainted over time by their environment and by their experiences. You know, like I was saying, life is the best teacher, for better or for worse. And what I found really interesting is Cammy is clearly on the younger side, right? You know, she's younger, naive. She has that innocence about her. And I feel like when you get to the millennial generation, a lot of us, we're seeing past this whole thing. We're seeing past the whole, you're black, I'm white. You're Mexican, I'm black. You're Asian, you're white. Like, we're seeing past that. We're looking at it more, are you a good person? Do you have similar views as mine? If you don't, fuck it, let's talk it out. Let's see where we can find common ground. I feel like we're moving past that. And so when you look at what Oda's doing Fishman Island, it's kind of the same thing. You got Cammy and her friends like, yeah, well, we didn't think twice about them because Cammy said they were her friends and they seemed like they were pretty good people. We had fun with them. They didn't do anything crazy. And you can tell on some level, particularly the guys that Luffy attacked, the shit don't sit right with them. And when Cammy's explaining, she says, yeah, I think somebody is preventing people from coming here. It just goes into it. You know, like there's some hate that's about to get broken up. And the reason I say broken up is wherever Luffy goes, on each island, there's a conflict there. Luffy just dives right into it. Oda does the world building. This is more expanded world building, by the way. And Luffy ends up breaking it out. And a best example of this would be like in Alabasta, where Luffy's looking like, oh shit, this island civil war. Okay, crocodile. I'm gonna go kick his ass. VV, I got you. Like little shit like that. So I thought that was pretty interesting that Oda just went there. And it's not something that surprises me. Again, Skypiea is one of my favorite arcs, and Skypiea, Oda just went right there with it, with the religious symbolisms and everything. So my chapter question to you guys is, what are your thoughts about this whole dynamic between the fishmen and the humans? And when you got to this, did you make any connections to the real world, or were you looking at it like, well, damn, you know, Oda's just, you know, doing the world building? But as always, guys, if you like anything I had to say, don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, share. Thank you so much for watching the video, guys. Have an awesome day.